Another world, another life.
Driftwood the Musical, based on the best-selling memoir, tells the incredible true story of one family's miraculous escape from Nazi Germany. Critics describe it as mesmerising, sublime and stunningly crafted. Our world premiere season sold out. Don't miss out. Book tickets now for the May and June seasons at driftwoodthemusical.com.au.
In the spirit of reconciliation, the Theatre Thoughts podcast acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all traditional custodians of the land on which our episodes are recorded.
Now, I want that as my alarm to wake up every morning because I'm pretty G'd up in this studio right now.
We will be employing you for the website creation. That was very good.
That was a slay introduction.
I would just take that and send it straight to you.
Hello.
I loved it. And my partner, Samantha Andrew, I'm like, so true though.
Yeah.
You're listening to the Theatre Thoughts podcast. My name's Justin and I'm so happy to have you here. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. If you're new to the podcast, welcome to our exclusive chats with some of the best artists that the theatre world has to offer. If you like this episode, why not give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts? Tell your friends at work around the water cooler. Sit down with your pet and listen to it religiously. Or just become a loyal little TT Pod fan. You can get full access to the podcasts, a shout out on one of our episodes, as well as earlier access to our podcast episodes for as little as $5 a month. Or if you're a little bit stretched on cash, why not just support us for $3 a month? Be sure to follow us on our Instagram at ttpod_official, where you can see all of our content online. So get ready to switch on those thoughts as you enjoy a brand new episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. Welcome everyone to a very, very, very special episode of the Theatre Thoughts podcast. I'm very excited to welcome two amazing performers to the studio. First up, we have a classically trained creative based in Melbourne, graduated from both NIDA and the Melbourne Conservatorium of Music, most recently starred in the critically acclaimed Fangirls at the Sydney Opera House, and has extensive experience across musical theatre, cabaret, opera, stage and screen, and with her partner, her creative partner, a musical comedian, actor, writer, and content creator from Melbourne who's garnered over 300,000 followers on TikTok and 12 million likes, a graduate from the Victorian College of the Arts, a composer, lyricist, and performer, creating works such as Baby Bye Bye Bye, and working on shows such as High Pony, Shitwrecked, No Hat No Play the Cabaret, and together, they've been coined by the Herald Sun as the future of Australian comedy. Please welcome Mel O'Brien and Samantha Andrew.
Let's go. Now, I want that as my alarm to wake up every morning because I'm pretty G'd up in this studio right now.
We will be employing you for the website creation. That was very good.
That was a slay introduction.
I would just take that and send it straight to you.
Hello.
I loved it. And my partner, Samantha Andrew, I'm like, so true though.
Yeah.
The amount of people we had. Remember that person who was like, we made this TikTok about when the Fitzroy Garage Party. Were you across this?
No.
Fitzroy Garage Party was like this big TikTok trend of these like inner North boys who like did this party. Long story short, we like were just like fucking around at home and like did this improv like song about it.
Yeah.
And the caption of the TikTok was like when you're like pissing around and then you're like your wife is just on the same level, and then the comments were like, that is so beautiful. When did you get married? I love that you're married. I love that you girls are actually in a relationship. Like I thought you were just best friends, but and we're like, let's go with this.
Yeah, just roll
we
with
have
it.
not corrected it at all.
Yeah.
We're like, sex sells.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was chaotic. Thank you very much for having us.
No, I'm very excited. Very excited. It was just us talking about High Pony, and then I was like, oh, I'd love to have you up on the podcast when you're in Sydney.
Well, you're our first podcast as a duo. We've never
really?
interviewed.
We've never.
I feel very honoured.
Yeah. Pop that cherry, Theatre Thoughts. Let's do it.
I know. I'm ready. I'm oiled up and ready to go. Okay. But you're obviously not unfamiliar with podcasts. You guys are superstars on Spotify.
Oh, maybe we can say that after 10 eps. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're just underneath Joe Rogan, I saw.
Now.
That was so my dad, classic, he's biggest fan of the pod. He went and listened to all of the podcasts that were above us in the comedy charts.
Really?
He went, now, Samuel, I went and had a listen to these other pods. And I've got to say, it's not as bright and as sparkly as you. And Mel, some of them are a bit sad, a bit mean. You girls are not mean. Don't be mean. And I went, thank you, Dad.
I didn't tell you this. At your birthday party, I was in the kitchen with Deb and Chris,
my parents.
And Chris literally, identical conversation, goes, now Mel, over the like Kim Petras playing in the background, goes, Mel, now I've listened to the other podcasts up above you. I tell you what, they're not the same.
So cute.
I love you. I love that we're for the dads.
Yeah.
No, we think we're for the trendy music theatre girls is what I was just about to say. Ew.
Keep that in, don't cut it out.
We think that we're for the music theatre kids who pretend they're not, but really, we're for the dads.
Well, I mean, the dad story you told about your dad writing from the perspective of the cat just
can I tell
killed me.
That story,
yeah.
It's the most whack
Give
thing
context about
Yeah.
where this was and what it was.
So, not the plug. You can find this story on the Mel Sam Pod. However, it's in the episode called "We Need to Hold Boomers Accountable for Their Emails." My father wrote, dare I say, a thesis, pages. It was so long, wasn't it? Pages and pages and pages of an email to this pet supplies company from the POV of our household cat, Cosmo. So it was dear pet, blah, 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 blah. My name is Cosmo. I'm a Burmese cat from Melbourne, and I am severely disappointed with this product. But he wrote it in hilarious, flowery language. And it was just outrageous. My dad's such a character.
It is so funny. It's great. I loved listening to it. It was so
Yeah.
good. And I have to be honest, at first I started listening to it, and I'm not going to lie, I did get it 5 minutes in, and I went, is this for me? And I was pause, and I went, maybe it's not. So I put it aside for a second, and then I came back to it, and I was just like, no, I got to finish this because I really like these
That
two
episode in
performers.
particular, or just the pod in general?
No, just the first one.
Yeah, gorgeous.
And then I got back into it, and then I was like, binge.
I love that.
I listened to it on my walks.
To anyone that's been listening to our pod right now that's going, is this for me? Go over that hump. Get over that hump.
Yeah. Because you just go for it. I think that's what was such a shock for me. I haven't listened to a great deal of podcasts where you guys just say exactly what's coming off the top of your heads.
Yep.
You know?
Well, that's the thing. From being knocked down from the beautiful golden 5-star rating on Spotify to 4.9, it is telling me we're not for everyone. But we actually are not for everyone, and we respect that.
100%. I think it's also beautiful and almost empowering to go it's okay to not be for everyone because nothing's for everyone. You know?
Yeah.
And to go the people who find the pod or find us and love it, that's brilliant. I think we have this gorgeous thing that happens where we talk about all the time. We're we would rather have the people who are listeners or fans of our shows or whatever, we would rather them love it deeply or aggressively be that's not for me, than anywhere in the middle of that sort of
a smaller, passionate audience.
A smaller, passionate audience who's
Yeah.
going to come back every year is so much more meaningful to us than global, even though of course global building of an audience would be so slay. If we had a global audience that was I could take or leave them, I don't know, it's a bit less special.
I think what really hooked me was when you guys started talking about your theatre and your theatre experiences from
You
drama
theatre
school.
bitch, of
And I
course.
was I'm such a theatre bitch.
Yeah.
I was sitting there going, the stories I could fucking tell them.
Oh my gosh. What's your best, what's your most outrageous?
Oh, okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this.
No,
I'm going to say it
Do
anyway.
it.
You can
You can
change the
always
school
cut it.
name or change
Oh,
the name.
no, it wasn't. It wasn't.
You
it
I was at VC Slay.
I was at this one in particular. No, so when I went into uni, I got into the Bachelor Performance brackets acting, right?
Yeah.
And then at the
Love
end
a
of
bracket.
it was great. At the end of the year, what they did was they streamlined us all and they broke us into acting, performance making, then the theatre makers, who were those who were doing a double degree. And so we all had to do this performance at the end of the year and go through the whole exams. And then I got changed from acting to performance making. I wasn't good enough to do
It's
the
giving
acting.
devising.
Yes.
You had to devise, didn't you?
And I had to devise and do all of
Exactly
this.
what this is.
Go stand in the middle of a street somewhere and
You're
just stand for an hour.
I just want to
What
do
does
the
that
doll's
feel
house.
you?
Thanks for
Yeah,
asking.
I'd love to just do a bit of Chekhov,
Yeah.
you know? But then I was talking to my friend the other night and I was like, why didn't I just go, actually, hang on, bitch. I'm paying for this course.
Yeah.
I'm staying here.
Yeah.
And so it's funny when you look back, but all the stuff that I did in performance making was so funny.
Oh,
Did you do animal work?
Of course I did animal work.
Oh, it's the
I was the
quintessential-
gorilla because
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
just
yeah.
very opposite to me. I was very skinny, just still a white ginger at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And I was just being a gorilla while everyone was
love
being
that.
a giraffe
Yeah.
or a peacock or something. Did
You
it
gotta
all.
do it.
Yeah.
It's not
was
drama
great.
school without animal work.
That is true. But everything happens for a reason, and here I am.
It's such a thing. Such a thing. Our favourite thing is to be like, well, I mean, in that episode you would have heard, like, to be like, drama school, like, there's things that, like, the whole world can relate to. Even though people are like, people are like, I'm not a theatre kid, I'm not a blah, blah. It's like, the whole world's a bit theatrical at the end of the day, isn't it? Like, come on.
I was chatting to someone actually the other night, and they are currently at drama school, and they were telling me that they loved the drama school episode, and then we're saying that they're a mature age student. They're like 25, 26, but most of the people in their course are like 19.
Oh, okay.
And apparently there's this like real divide, and they feel like, you know, when you're working with young students, like, I'm straight out of uni and I'm at NIDA or I'm at WAPA or I'm at VCA, and it's like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Apparently they sat their year level down and were like, guys, this is a real generational problem. You need to harden up. Because a lot of them are just like, so like, you know, the classic Gen Z trope of being like, you've just like ruined one of my boundaries as a performer and you can't talk to me like that and you can't do this. And I'm like, great that Gen Z speak up for themselves, but apparently like their year level they can't handle criticism.
Right.
Like that actually really impacts me and my energy and my mood. It's like, you have to have thick skin and like
especially
handle
for this
it.
career. That's why I think I backed out, because I wasn't like a thick-skinned actor.
Yeah.
I wasn't like ready to, you know, wait on tables and wait and have all this stuff.
Yep.
I was like, okay, I'm going to go do this instead.
Yeah. It's such an interesting like line to toe as well, of like, because there's so much value as well in now of like these young people coming through the industry.
I fully agree.
Who now like do speak up and do, you know, like, you know, go to the people in charge and go, actually, this is entirely inappropriate that this teacher asks this or says this or
totally.
Because like we've talked about before, like things that happen in drama school, like there's this odd like expected vulnerability and expected like, here's my entire soul, which like there's so much rhetoric around like, because that's what's going to make you a good actor is like coming in and talking about like your dead brother.
It's like harming.
And it's like, well, it also can be, if it's not dealt like appropriately with, it's just like intimacy coordinators and like the rise of all of these sorts of things. I was literally just about to say that role's popped up probably in like the last 5-6 years. I've seen it like listed on every show. Oh my gosh.
I had to ask someone, I was like, is this like new or has this always been a role just no one's mentioned?
I look back on like things done in amateur theatre world of like when there were intimacy scenes and things like that, and you just go, oh my God, you try not to think about it because it's like, it's just so incorrect. Like to just go, just like go in that room and make out and come back and like tell us what you discover. He's like, probably not, my king.
Not my king. I love it.
You know, let it be known on this mic, I am absolutely so pro Gen Z setting their own boundaries. And like,
definitely.
No, it's just interesting to hear that flip of them. Some of them, it seems, in this course are not able to handle criticism at all,
right?
You know, and are crumbling under any form of like feedback.
Because there's handling criticism is one thing, and then like going into to stand up for your safety is another.
Definitely,
it's
it's two different things. For sure.
Other sides of coin. Very different.
Well, let's focus on yourselves individually for a second.
Individually,
so, I'd love to know.
We're sorry to cut you off. I'm like, we're so codependent. I'm like, I don't want to talk about myself alone. I'm like, so we as a duo.
Mel goes to talk about her opera degree. I'm like, I've actually heard this before. Can we have the next question?
I'd love to know, like, what was the inspiration for both of you where you started? Like, were you always just straight out of the womb, just like, yep, I'm bound for the stage?
Yeah, I have always been a singer. I've been singing since 3-4 years of age. Dad's got all these home videos of me singing the house down. And then I was always a theatre kid. You know, I was a big choir girl. I was in the Australian Girls Choir, which we all know well and truly very well.
God bless the AGC.
God bless the AGC. You're like such a former choir girl honorary choir girl that was never in the AGC. Huge choir girl, loved singing, loved music. Always liked making people laugh. And then it got to uni time and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I always wanted to do music theatre, but I could never dance. And I liked acting and singing, but I was like, I'm not going to do music theatre. I'm going to go do music. And I've always loved jazz music. And I was like, I'll go do the jazz degree. So I went and did the jazz degree at VCA and was always really trying to be funny and silly in the course. And my degree was very like, jazz.
Right.
No, we're scanning, Samantha. No, we're looking at atonal rhythms. No, that's really good that I said that. Do I deserve a BFA? It's me like having to do like chromatic scales and like Phrygian modes and being like, but I want to write a song about Ariel, the Little Mermaid for Ursula. You know, like it's just silly. Anyway, and then I was like always trying to write comedy songs and they were like, not here, stop it, go away.
Right.
And then I left uni and then started writing comedy. And I was just like, this is where I shine. But let it be known, like, I love comedy, but I also, like, I was about to say earnestly a music traditionalist. I'm not that. No, it sounds really wanky to say I'm a musician, but I love music and writing beautiful music. And I love listening to, like jazz music and orchestral music and choral music. And I love harmony and I love all of those things. So like working with Mel, we can talk about it more later, but it's like a big part of what we do is, yes, it's all comedy and it's silly and it's clowny and it's that. But at the end of the day, like we want the music to be
want to be making gorgeous music.
Yeah.
But that's kind of my origin story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I similarly always like from a little like toddler, like loved the spotlight, loved performing, loved making people laugh similarly. And loved singing. Grew up like I did the Young Australian Broadway chorus, which is sort of like
the rival of the AGC.
Yeah, it's a real rivalry. You're either an AGC girl or a YBC girl.
Oh, okay.
And I did YBC for a little bit, or did all musicals in high school, like everyone does. And then, similarly, I really wanted to be a musical theatre performer. That's all I like. Musical theatre is like my biggest love. Like it's always what I come back to. Always what I come back to. And so I really wanted to get into one of the big schools to do like a 3-year music theatre program. No one wanted a slice of me.
Oh no.
Couldn't get in anywhere. And then so I was like, oh shit. And so I had auditioned for the Melbourne Con as sort of like a backup, but also I was like, it's a really prestigious like classical music school. So I was like, good God. I was like, because in my head, I really was a music theatre singer.
Yeah.
And so I was like, even though like I trained classically in school, but really in my head, what I was doing was music theatre.
Right.
And then when I didn't get into one of the music theatre schools, I was like, holy shit, well, I'm not going to get into my backup. And then I got into the con. So I sort of fell accidentally into gaining this like really spectacular like classical operatic training that I did for 3 years. Okay. But really the parallels are bonkers, like really similar to Sam. So I was doing this like stringent, super strict, pretty like by the book, pretty conservative opera degree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whilst
both
doing
in conservative degrees for sure.
Right.
Whilst filling my nights and my weekends with like going and doing like the musicals at Melbourne Uni and like going to do that, and my singing teachers being like, please don't do that. Like, please don't do that. And I've something that I'm really like, it's so earnest of me.
No, I'm
like,
in.
So like, I'm really passionate about like cross training vocally and,
but don't they say, sorry to cut you off, but don't they say that classical voice is the best like way to then go into music theatre?
100%.
Because the training that you get.
In what happens is
vocally.
in music theatre, it's really respected to have classical technique, but it doesn't go the same way.
Oh, really?
So in classical world, if you're like a belting, and it's an absolute blanket rule. Like there, of course, are teachers who really do respect it, and more people who are studying it more. And I'm actually doing my master's at the moment.
Oh, well done.
With like a master's in music, and like a lot of my like research papers have been on like the powers of cross training.
Okay.
And like long story short, like was doing opera during the days at Melbourne Uni, but then was like filling my life with comedy and silliness everywhere else. And all I ever wanted to do was, and so much new work actually, was really what I discovered a love for in uni. Because I also felt like there wasn't really a place for me in traditional musical theatre, like what I had to offer. Or I just wasn't getting those roles and getting seen for them. So I was like, let's fucking make something that's gonna.
Yeah.
It's both of us in our courses being asked to write like a 32-bar atonal melody, and we're like, yes, but can it be about a cactus that wants to be a balloon?
Yeah, like I remember.
And they're like, no. And we're like,
my-
can it have lyrics? They're like, no, it's a melody on a piano for piano forte.
I remember one of my compositional tasks that I did at uni was, I think I told this, but it didn't make it onto it, so I can tell it again. Was I like used this, it was like for postmodernist composition, like you had to use like clips of media and things. And I found this speech of Tina Fey doing this speech about how female comedians are treated like cappuccino machines in an office. And so people buy one once and then go, and then if it breaks or it doesn't do exactly what you want to do, they go, oh yeah, well, we tried that and it didn't work.
I've seen that speech.
Yeah, it's a great
it's
speech.
great.
And so I got this speech and I like clipped up the speech and like into, this is ridiculous, the most like art school thing ever. Got into GarageBand and I was like, I'm going to make the most fucking powerful feminist piece. And it's called, and I still have it on my computer, it's called Cappuccino Machine.
Love it.
And it's like Tina Fey being like, because female comedians are like cappuccino machines. And then I recorded on my iPhone, like the sounds of my own coffee machine, the sounds of me in the shower, like singing. And I made it into this soundscape of like things.
That's amazing.
Anyway, and I was just,
and that will bookend the podcast. We will be signing off this episode.
I will send that to you.
With the
that.
Cappuccino song.
Oh my God, I'd love to listen to that. The Theatre Thoughts podcast is proud to be hosting Meraki Arts Bar Main Stage's first post-show Q&A. Join us for a special event after the performance of Expiration Date on Tuesday the 2nd of May. See the awesome production and stick around afterwards for an exclusive Q&A recording with the cast and creative team. For full information and to book tickets to the Tuesday the 2nd of May production, check the show notes. So where did you two meet then? I think you might have said it on your podcast, but I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
It's
a classic question. It's a fair question. We actually haven't known each other for that long. We had a lot of mutuals through UMTA, University Music Theatre Association.
University of Melbourne Music Theatre Association.
So sorry.
So fucking embarrassing. You fucked up.
That's Mel's bread and butter. And basically, I wrote a Sits Probe mini musical, an a cappella mini musical, because I'm a wanker and dead. And I cast Mel in it, and then Mel was in that, and I always just like loved her energy. I thought she was like brilliant. And then I saw Mel in like an UMTA music theatre night, and you sang like Feed the Birds about vegan handbags. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I was like, this girl is funny. And I always just like, because I was writing shows, I was always kind of on the lookout for people that I was a scout at the time.
Ooh.
And then I wrote a musical that was in development with my two former collaborators, Eddie and Belle, called Girls Are Hot, which was being developed through Midsummer, and Eve Blake was our mentor on that project.
Oh, so that's how you met Eve. I was wondering like where you came into parts.
So Eve Blake came on board and helped us out with that. And then we were casting for it, and I was like, look, there's this person that I think would be brilliant in our cast. I also think they're very passionate, which you are, about development of new Australian work. They're queer. I think they'd be brilliant. And we cast Mel as the villain in that musical.
Yeah.
Homophobe villain.
Homophobe villain.
Hey.
The character was like a manager at Cook Eye, like a like super like like clothing store.
Yeah. She was a clothing store.
I was a clothing store. I played a homophobic clothing store.
And then from there, I was just like, oh, there's something. We got on like a house on fire.
Yeah.
And we met up one day before the first lockdown.
It's crazy to me. This was like genuinely our first ever like one-on-one friend hang.
Right.
Like
okay,
we'd been like, we'd obviously done 2 projects together now, so we were like absolutely friends.
Yeah.
But we were like, let's like 2 gals go get a coffee and a vegan sandwich from Smith & Deli. Like,
yeah. And we sat in a park, and Mel was like, I'm thinking of writing a one-woman show. And I was like, oh, that's great. And then you were like, do you want to help me with the music? And I was like, absolutely, let's do that. Anyway, and Mel's like, do you want to write the music together? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we kind of stopped for a second, and we were like, wait, let's do something together.
Okay.
And then we were like, what would we do if we did a cabaret together? And we were like, oh, let's do something nostalgic. And we first landed on, let's do a cabaret about the forgotten lunchbox snacks of the early 2000s. And then we went, I don't know if there's enough of about LCMs for a whole cabaret.
I think like, what would I put in?
And then we stuck on nostalgia, and then we came up with the title No Hat No Play, the cabaret.
that day.
And that day, sat in my car and went, let's sit with that for a bit. And we wrote No Hat No Play.
And I think we sent an email to the Butterfly Club like the next day.
Oh, right. Okay.
And we were like, okay, we're going to do it. Like, let's go. And then that was literally 2 seconds before Melbourne went into
No way.
first lockdown.
Oh, wow.
So then we wrote No Hat No Play literally almost entirely on Zoom.
Right.
And it was sort of like our project, and we didn't know, because obviously like you guys know, like in Melbourne it was hectic, and it was like lockdown was a different beast.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
We really were like, we don't know, like this is just feels like it's going to be forever. And for us, we were like, we don't know if this is ever going to go up. We had about 2 or 3 cancelled seasons.
Right.
We had 3 in a row.
In a row cancelled, and it was so actually heartbreaking. And we were like, we just have this thing that we want to share with everyone. We're so proud of it.
Yeah.
Couldn't put it on, but we were like, what a gorgeous like project to have had in lockdown. Like even if it never goes up, it was like, and it was we had personal things. We had personal things going in our life. Like that time of writing that show is so like sacred to me. Because we were just like, and we were building this best friendship as well at the same time.
That's nice.
Which was so special.
So special.
Yeah. And then look at you go. And
then
here
finally
you are.
got it up and now.
And then No Hat No Play was born.
3 shows under our belt.
Yeah, because you were saying when I saw you in Melbourne that you're like one behind or like...
because of COVID as well.
Yeah.
So I forget exactly how it happens. I think because it was because we had Melbourne Comedy Festival, which is in like March, April-ish, the year that we first debuted No Hat No Play.
Right.
2021.
And then we went back into lockdown. So Melbourne Fringe didn't happen and the other things didn't happen. So then our touring of that show got put off by a year.
Okay.
But we continued to debut our new shows at each Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Right.
So last year we debuted Shipwrecked at Melbourne Comedy Festival, but we were touring No Hat No Play around the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so this year we debuted High Pony.
Yep. Which people are raving about.
We're so proud.
We're
so proud of that.
We're
Yeah,
extra proud of High Pony.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like the more we work together, the more we get better as writers.
Yeah.
It's just the best show of our what's it called?
Catalog.
But people go cuckoo.bananas.com.au for No Hat No Play.
Really?
People really have favourites, and we're like,
I think it's that whole like primary school nostalgia.
It's the nostalgia.
and it's also, and not in a way that I'm like, it's a read for anyone whose favourite is. However, I think it's absolutely our most accessible show.
Yeah.
It's it's our least cuckoo bananas.
Okay.
I think it's our most accessible, and also the only prerequisite for enjoying that show really is, did you go to primary school in Australia? It's kind of for anyone who did that. Whereas like I think High Pony, by that time we've really honed in on what our comedic voice is and who our audience is. So like it's a lot gayer. It's a lot cuckoo.
We're also a lot more, in the best way, a lot more loose on stage. Like, I would love to watch archival footage of our first season of No Hat No Play, because we were by the book. And then we come out and Mel
script.
definitely delivers this line, then I deliver this line, then I move stage left. Now we are just chilling out.
loose.
And it's so great.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see Shipwrecked, honestly. I'm really
wait to
excited to
have
see you
ya.
go and do your thing.
Shipwrecked
fun.
is silly.
So fun. It's such an in-between show. Like for people who have seen like all the shows, it really, like I said to my mate last night, who saw No Hat No Play and then High Pony but hadn't seen the middle show, and I was like, you'll see Shipwrecked and you'll see how much of it is in between. Like,
Okay. Well, there is one question I wanted to ask you before we do our theatre thoughts questions. I'd love to know, because you guys are so on like your shows and your podcasts and your social media is all very vocal about the theatre industry and what you expect from it and what we should expect from it. So I'd love to know how you think the theatre industry has changed over the years and how those changes have impacted what you do.
Good question. I mean, I guess I can start by saying I think it's like musical theatre industry as a whole and as an art form is like absolutely like based in like a history of racism.
Yeah.
Racism mostly, first of all. Racism.
Yeah.
Homophobia, misogyny, fatphobia, all of the things that are not good that you don't want to see.
Yeah.
And so I think musical theatre, unfortunately, has got so much further to go in terms of like just fucking figuring its shit out.
Yeah.
Like you're seeing gorgeous diversity on like screens, screens in particular, like figuring it out. And I think musical theatre has so much further to go. I mean, I was going to say they're trying. I think a lot of companies aren't trying hard enough to put it like actually like completely truthfully. But I think it's really hard, right? Because you have all of these people who go, I love musical theatre. Musical theatre is what I want to do. It's like I said before, it's my number one passion.
It's a hard thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
When briefs come out that you go, oh, that's not something that like is going to make my soul sing, but it's the only option in Australia. You know, if you have 3 or 4 big touring shows at a time and you go, well, all I want to do is music theatre, but I don't want to be in a show that's going to celebrate cultural appropriation. Yeah. Or I don't want to be in a show that's like, will make the Capitol Theatre or the whatever theatre like laugh at misogyny. Yeah. Or at like jokes around consent. It's really hard because you have to make a choice, and I think it's a choice that people can make of, well, am I signing up to go and audition for that show or am I not? And I think to loop it back to what we've done, I think I never felt also as like a fat person, as like a comedic person, as a person. I was like, there is just not much in musical theatre at the moment in like casting people's eyes for me.
Okay.
And that's when I go, so let's go make our own shit.
Let's go make
you can
our
bet
own
your bottom
shit.
dollar when you come to one of our shows, it's not going to be any of the things that I just listed.
But you are also, just to speak Mel's praise for a second, you are the most put your money where your mouth is person, because I have seen you get handed on a silver platter some really cool roles that you've gone, actually, this role is not for me, or actually this show needs a person of color in its cast and I won't be another white person joining this lineup. And you have said no to big things. I think there are also performers that pretend they're doing that, but they're actually not, and they're still taking those roles. I guess my answer to that question is, I think there are more queer stories now on stage, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
I think the thing that we're really trying to tap into is this new wave of musical theatre that is encompassing the youth, like Six and Fangirls, that get a hectic fan base of kids and teenagers that want to see themselves on the stage, that want to listen to the cast album every day, that want to buy the merch, that are pushing, no offence, the boomers with MTC membership since 1986 out of the theatre, because that's who we want. We want people that when we come out on stage, not in an like attention-seeking way, but that scream and clap and holler because they're so excited by the theatre. And I think the theatres, sometimes it feels so dated and so stale. And why are we bringing back the same shows again and again and again?
And casting them in the same ways you've always cast them.
We don't
like
need
a
Thoroughly
double-edged
Modern
sword,
Millie.
isn't it?
Actually, we don't
No, we
need that
don't.
anymore.
I think what's interesting as well is you have people who go, oh, well, at the moment, diversity is the good thing to do. First of all, shut up.
Yeah.
Actually, what it's going to do is it will make your stories more interesting and a better version of your stories. Like having a cast of white, thin, cis, straight people is boring. You know, like it's like what other sides can we see to this story? It's like you're not championing for diversity because it's the right thing to do. You're doing it because it's going to be better for your art.
Right.
Yeah.
Like and
that's even the thing as well. It's like there are shows as well that are starting to get there.
I think as well it's hard because when the bar is set so low. When the bar is set so low for so many of these things that people are hungry for in the theatre, people will take something that might actually be not a sleigh show.
Like Jagged Little Pill.
Yeah, we're like, and again, there's so much nuance. Like Jagged has so many brilliant aspects to it, but there are a lot of aspects that don't make it a great show. That also are still celebrating at the end of the day, like a white woman who's like, you know, at the end of the day,
a white woman's addiction.
And it's that story. And I just think it's, people are so hungry for better shows. And I think that's a gorgeous place to be, because where we end up is we have more people writing new musicals, more people, and that's what's really like, we're starting to see that.
I'm talking to Vidya McCann tomorrow about, the Lucky Country, so this new stuff like
she's
coming in.
Brilliant.
Oh, she's incredible, isn't
so
she?
Brilliant.
And I mean, the other thing that I'll say is being in the cast of Fangirls for me was one of the most like magical experiences ever. You know, as someone who like lives in a bigger body, I wasn't the only person who was living in a bigger body in that cast. It wasn't it's like, oh my gosh, there's room for 2 fat people in a cast. That's crazy. I'm like, oh, well, which one's the comedic relief? It's like, actually, me and gorgeous Milo Hartill, who I'm sure you're familiar with her work. She's the best ever and such a fucking advocate for everything in this industry. She's brilliant. If you don't follow her, you absolutely should. We are 2 girls who are like, bigger bodied, both got comedy chops out the wazoo. We're such fucking close friends, and it's just like, we in no space would Milo and I at the moment be cast in the same commercial musical together. And that's bonkers. Like, so doing Fangirls, first of all, it's such a shout out to the team behind that show.
It's such an incredible show.
So good.
Who can see that. And also to then we did this school show. We did a school show for Fangirls that I will truly, it makes me emotional talking about it, because I'm like, I will never forget the power, like seeing these young kids, young trans kids, young, just all of these kids just being like, who put up their hands and said, can I just say thank you so much? I've never seen someone who looks like me on a stage in whichever way it was, if it was a person of color, if it was a trans person, like, I just think it's not that hard. And we got to do better.
Yeah.
But I have hope.
I love it. That's a
Is that okay?
Love, so good.
I'm feeling so jazzed. I'm like, we
Yeah.
might need to go write a musical next door.
Do it now.
Right, get out the butcher's paper and start scribing some melodies.
Literally.
Yeah.
They won't be atonal.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I know, like, with my podcast anyway, I'm very aware that I am, like, just a cis, like, straight man.
Oh, we're two white gals, cis gals
Yeah.
too. Like,
so I'm
Yeah.
always very conscious about the guests I bring on because I don't just want, like, I'm not the attraction of the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the people I bring on, the people I talk to is, like,
Yeah.
what I want the focus
Yeah.
to be. And I feel like that's the same thing with when it comes to shows. It's a double-edged sword. You need to make money, obviously, because COVID.
Yeah.
But you don't have to bring back Thoroughly Modern Millie. You know, there's
100%,
other shows you can bring out.
100%.
Fangirls sells out. It's at the it was
Oh.
at the Opera House, you know, for God's sake.
absolutely. Do the old shows.
Yeah.
Cast it
Chuck
in
'em
an
in.
interesting way.
Yeah,
Cast it in a
exactly.
fresh
And I
way.
think that's what you touched
Direct it
upon.
in a fresh way.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't have to do, you know, the one that Andrew Lloyd Webber did back in
100%.
1950.
And the way that we've seen it 1,000,000,001 times.
Exactly.
Boring.
1,000,000,001 times.
Yeah.
It's also been so beautiful just as like a how good's theatre and how good's the theatre community. We've experienced firsthand, like just coming off the back of our Melbourne Comedy Festival season, like we just, and I don't want to put us on a pedestal, but it's been very interesting. We have a different audience to most of the comedians doing Comedy Festival
Right.
because they are music theatre lovers
Yeah.
and they show up and they're passionate and they buy their tickets in advance and they line up early, and when we come out, like, we feel so loved. And, you know, we've had feedback from our venue that were like, your audience, something about the Mel and Sam audience, they're so respectful, they're so passionate,
I
they
feel like
love
a proud
you.
parent when our
great.
venue manager
We're
says
so-
that. I'm like, yeah, were they good? Did they use their manners?
Yeah,
Very
good.
good.
But it's so...
You say thank you. You say thanks for having us.
It's been so beautiful witnessing that. And, you know, like, as musical comedians and doing what we do as well, like, I don't want to say like, oh, we're so underestimated, but in the comedy industry and in the stand-up world, we have a lot of comedians and traditional stand-ups that don't take what we do seriously
Yeah,
and don't
right.
think, they think, oh, the little girl's on at their venue that's, you know, they're kind of doing whatever, we don't really care. And I'm like, no, but you should see the audience that are showing up for us.
yeah.
Like, there's such
Well,
merit.
when I went down there, I took my friend to see Gillian Cosgrove's show.
Oh.
And
Gillian
can I just say, oh my God.
How brilliant was that
it
show?
was insanely good.
I'm sure you know this. I'm probably telling you what you know already. You know that she swept. Have you heard about the awards she won?
yeah. She
Oh.
won Golden Gibbo, Best
Everything.
Show.
Best
As she
like,
absolutely should. I'll win for
absolutely.
musical comedy, boys.
I loved it because the point I was making was he went there and he goes, I don't really see many musical comedies. And I went, mate, it's the only one I see.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'll chuck in a stand up every now
Yeah.
and then, but
Yep.
I only go down there
Yeah.
to do Michelle
is
Brazier,
such a
Gillian
market for
Cosgrove,
it. Absolutely.
You guys, you
my
know.
life's mission is to tell people, because I didn't know this upon writing my first cabaret. Someone said, do you want to write a cabaret? I went, yeah, but I didn't know what it was. Cabaret is not the musical Cabaret.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people go,
Yeah.
cabaret, like
the
what
musical?
good is sitting alone? And I'm like, it's actually just storytelling through song, and it can
Exactly.
be dumb and silly and
Yeah.
fun. And it's great, but it doesn't need to be at a piano with a top hat
Yeah.
and a red velvet curtain. But I think some people think that.
The red velvet curtain at the top in town is screeching.
We love you,
Oh,
tough in town. Yeah.
So that was amazing. Loved all of that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Do I do a chef's kiss? I don't know. I'd love to ask you our 1 minute theatre thoughts as a wrap up.
fun.
Great. We've got to be different in our answers.
Wait, is it a minute? Is it how many we can fit into a minute?
Yes.
Slay.
Okay.
Okay.
And just
All right.
rapid fire whatever comes out.
Can you
Whatever
pass?
comes
Can you
out.
pass if you don't know one?
I mean, if you want to.
Okay,
that's totally
just for
fine.
the purpose of a minute, because I don't want to be stuck on who's the best opera singer in Perth.
In Perth.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. What's been your favourite production you've seen recently?
Choir Boy.
That was great.
How excellent was it?
And one woman show. Yeah.
That was good. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Living on a Prayer.
Fly Me to the Moon.
You jazz bitch.
What role haven't you played yet that you'd still want to?
Dot in Sunday in the Park with George.
Oh, lovely. It's a great one.
I don't do music theatre, so pass.
You like
Sus.
Frank Sinatra in Fly Me to the Moon.
correct.
Who inspired you as a young performer?
Magda Svansky.
Love her.
As a Rachel Bloom.
Excellent. Who inspires you now?
Samantha Andrew.
Babe, I was gonna literally say you.
I knew it. I knew you'd say it. Which production would you most want to see come to Australia? good question.
Ooh.
Dear Evan Hansen. I
feel
really
like it's
wanna-
overdue.
Yeah, I
for
really
sure.
want to see Dear Evan Hansen.
Yeah.
Hades Town.
That's my answer
Yeah.
as well. That
Yeah.
and Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
And the final one, finish this sentence. Mel and Sam Podcast. The Mel and Sam Podcast. It's giving...
Gay.
Theatre bitches that love to be on a mic and talk shit, but at the end of the day just want to keep singing over that piano chord.
I love it so much. Oh God! Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. That was incredible. You guys speak so passionately about everything, and I just can't wait to see where you go as well. Like,
Thank you.
What will they do next?
Maybe
tuned.
next time we come in for the same interview, we'll have a hectic manager that's like, sorry, where are the girls' coffees?
Yeah. I was like, the water, the best I can do.
We have our banner behind us. We'll just set our
We'll both have banners next time.
Like, oh, there's yours.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you for having us.
Thank you to Mel O'Brien and Samantha Andrew for joining me as our guest on the podcast. You can follow Mel on Instagram by searching @Mel O'Brien with 2 N's. You can follow Samantha Andrew on Instagram by following @Samantha Andrew. To listen to the Mel and Sam podcast, simply look them up on Spotify. This episode was produced by Echidna Audio. Follow them on Instagram @Echidna Audio for all their audio services. Once again, if you enjoyed our podcast, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts and head to the link in this episode's description for our Instagram account, TikTok, YouTube, and Patreon. My name's Justin Clark, and I'll see you next time here on the Theatre Thoughts podcast.